I hope that the sound will work. Sound, Kiva. Can you hear me? The sound is excellent. Amazing. Roy, thank you as well. All good. So today our topic is 5 directions of tantric work, or which types of clients with which concerns come to tantric work. So this is going to be our stream today, and as always we're having some introductory block, and then we're going to go through your questions, through your case studies, and we're going to do these samples of this tantra work, consulting, whatever, however you want to frame it as. So the clients that come to tantric work can fall into 5 general categories. And the first category of clients is those who are seeking energy, vitality, and meanings. And remember, we had a bunch of people who, in the live chat, in the chat portion, start bringing up the purpose of life, what is this all for, and so on. So this category of people would fall to this first classification: energy, vitality, and meanings. Then the second category of people will be psychosomatics. As we already, not once, we were discussing the possible connection, the linkage between the state, the mental state of a person, their state of self-repression perhaps, how their attitude, how they treat themselves, and the choices that they make, what amount of emotional tension that they bear on a daily basis, and the physical outcomes of that. So those psychological contributions into their physical body will fall into the category of psychosomatics. And there are some interesting cases that can happen. Autoimmunity is a very excellent case of pushing the boundaries in, of self-neglect. Then something like excessive weight, for example, or in general something related to eating behaviors, consumption behaviors. Then there could be orthopedic problems that can be associated with psychosomatics. Digestive issues can be also falling into the category of psychosomatics. And this is an important point to clarify here, that psychosomatics is not just you switch something in your understanding of things. No, you need to find a new mode of operation, because our physical body responds to both your mental state, but also largely to the crude biochemistry that you are directing through your actions. Do you go outside? Do you move? Do you eat healthy? Are you capable of adhering to a healthful diet that promotes your health? Are you capable of prioritizing yourself, your physical well-being, over something? Remember the example when in one of the recent streams we're talking about, I will sabotage my sleep because what Sarah and Bob did on the weekend and their family drama is far more interesting for me to engage with right now. For example, I do it 100 times, and that leads to tangible outcomes. Or, for example, I live in the conditions in which the environment constantly presses me in, and I'm not willing, I'm not capable of becoming a leader of my life because I'm scared, I don't have an adaptation. And thus, I will be making choices, I will not be making choices, in fact. I will be going with the safest, with the most convenient thing, that's something that will have social approval, or something that my leader does, or the person who holds my safety, because I never grew up in that regime, to be able to create my own safety, to stick up for my interests and build my own life on my own terms. So I will be fully putting myself in this dependence on someone or something. And that chronic behavior of making choices that are antagonist of your own interests, antagonist of your own health, your body, they will be causing over time to psychosomatics. And of course, there also will be some things associated, this will be the next category, with fertility. Fertility is another category of requests that are being brought to a Tantra coach. And today, whoever is joining, their topic is what types of clients come to Tantra coach. So 5 directions, 5 categories of clients. The third one is fertility. Fertility, conception. A fully healthy couple. A fully healthy woman. The pregnancy either doesn't happen or the pregnancy is interrupted over and over and over. Fixed nutrition. Fixed every possible thing. Hormones are in check. Everything's fine. Something in the mind just prevents conception or causes a spontaneous abortion. What is your channel about and what are you talking about? I just barely, I'm Tantra coach, Tantra therapist, and today we're discussing 5 groups of clients that come to a Tantra coach. Hello, Chad. Welcome back. Now, and in terms of fishing, I do like fishing, actually. I spent my childhood fishing a lot in different ways. So, fertility, conception. What is in that psyche that prevents that conception? In fact, with everything that's going on in the society, how the topics of pregnancy, conception, female sexuality are tormented, perverted to no end, submitted as fully like some medical field, when certain degree of ease, natural attitude towards it, perhaps sacralization even, are gone from this process. And it's fully instrumental and is so associated with pain, victimhood, sacrifice. Not surprising that women will struggle with fertility and conception, because it is a journey that is absolutely scary. It's terrifying. It is normally, it would be a peak, the natural progression of female sexuality, but female sexuality itself is a very, very perverted topic. Then the idea of pregnancy and this association that pregnancy is necessarily the duty of a medical field to handle. It turns female sexuality further into turning into a patient, attached to pipes, attached to all of this medical environment just because she was enjoying her sexuality, enjoying her partner, enjoying that union. How about that? It is an incredibly perverted field, and no wonder that a lot of women will have natural blockages to embracing that. Then whatever conflicts there may be inside of the relationships that cause friction in this topic, preventing conception or preventing the successful carry of the baby, those things can contribute as well. A bunch of things that we can work on as Tantra, within a Tantric protocol. Hello everyone, Malik, hello. Choker, yeah, it's a very cool necklace. Bartunato, hello. Then, of course, as Tantra coach, Tantra therapist, we cannot dismiss, and in fact, it's one of the biggest topics. Can you guess what it is? Number 4. Love and sexuality and sexual relationships. This is something that we discuss a ton in our streams usually. That's what people bring to our streams, and that's what people have most issues with, I feel like. And Tantra works on this group of clients through, just like with everything, through increasing, first of all, the potential, the physical ability to enjoy certain experiences, to handle emotions. Then by sorting out the concepts surrounding love and, like, in general, relationships between men and women, or if we're talking about homosexual or whatever orientation there is, whatever self-identity there is. So basically the intimate relationships, we need to work on the concepts that a person has. Oftentimes it will be a person has very deep-rooted trauma. Very deep-rooted trauma either from childhood or from previous relationships that prevents them from functioning comfortably, from embracing this area of life in general without blockages, without struggle. And in Tantra we increase this capacity. We give the person the baseline state of ease. We lower their stress, and then we work based on the concern, based on the main concern that the person brings. Where is the main pain located? And then, of course, for couples, we are also embracing the tools for tantric sex education, how sexuality can be expanded from the mere penetration, rushed penetration, and some like thrusting, when just to dump some tension. How to change the perception of sexuality from some tension landfill and mutual usage of each other's organs into the process that's far more overwhelming, far more comprehensive, that is very pleasant, that is infused with joy, that is infused with a lot of energy. It's better just to pay for it, says Emma. Great. Freak out tent? Just better just to pay for it, sure. There's always, I guess, solution for just everyone. So we are expanding the perception of what it is. And we're working on undoing the traumatic patterns, substituting them with healthier counterparts. And also we are learning to feel our body. Through tantric practices, we're also learning to feel our body. Because partners may come and go, your body will always stay with you. Your relationships with you will always remain. And that's an important point within this protocol, something important to understand. And then the fifth one is spirituality. And personal growth. So this is point number 5. Thank you, Kiva. Yes, everyone has different opinions about love. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know how to explain it to you. Well, you understand what I'm saying. I mean, I understand what I'm saying as well. Nothing to explain. So, this is personal growth and spirituality. There could be clients who will be coming with quite interesting requests at times. And I have a very wonderful stream about escapism, spiritual escapism, that touches up on this topic. Personal growth. This type of clients, we start working with bringing it to a more practical plane. Because what is that spirituality? What is that personal growth? What is it for? How do you understand that you grew personally? How did you understand that you are more spiritual? What applications does it have? How it translates into actions? What's going to happen here? So there are some interesting philosophical conundrums and discussions and work that can be performed. Primarily, sometimes, perhaps, we will be talking about what this spirituality and personal growth stand for and why this request came to fruition. Why a person, out of all things in life, wants to focus themselves specifically on this topic. So there is some interesting, any interesting scenario can play there. Ticket booth. I will ban you, okay? Because if you keep speaking in slogans, I will ban you. Okay. Let's talk about this human to human, from human experience. We already figured this out. So, 5 categories. First, energy, vitality, meanings. 2, psychosomatics. 3, branching out from number 2, fertility, conception. Number 4, love, sexuality, and sexual relationships. And 5, spirituality and personal growth. This is what we're working with, usually within Tantra. If you can think about any other categories, we can discuss them. When we talk about Human Renaissance Program, you will see that in the description of my services, I put a lot of very specific things, such as related to creativity, related to work, related to the pursuit and being functional while on your path. So, where to put that in these categories? Perhaps it would be personal growth and vitality. Because, okay, Gamble, we're blocking you because we are spam. Yeah, I'm banning for slogans, yes. So what are we allowed to say? We're allowed to ask about specific questions, concerns, sharing your experiences. And when we are, and also it would be nice if we are staying a little bit on track, perhaps. Something that is relevant for Tantra coaching, such that we keep productive conversation. Because when a lot of people join in, sometimes it turns into chaotic process of trying to figure out which nationality I'm from, where's my accent from, and so on. So it becomes kind of counterproductive. So when we are talking about nearly every of these points, the commonality here will be the commonality between all of these areas. Let's put the title on top such that people who join know what we're talking about. 5 types of clients, let's say. Types of tantric clients. For every type of tantric client, the fundamentals are the same. We're building a house, and this house is our psyche. Psyche, our relationships with life, whatever idea we have about the world. And if we start trying to work with this construction without any foundation, it will be a pointless construction. So we need to work on the foundation here. We need to work on the piping, on the plumbing, whatever structures are there that are very important to sustain this household. And this starts with, of course, working on the lifestyle. This is probably one centerpiece of our whole tantric work irrespective of which type of client visits us. So this is our, again, food, this is our sleep, this is our movement, and that's pretty much where we begin. We audit these areas of life. But then we start identifying. For example, we receive a client who comes with the request for vitality. Let's do category number 1. Category 1, vitality. Vitality, energy, purpose. Purpose. For this category, we need to identify not only the reception of energy, but where energy goes. Where does energy go? So where does energy go? Where is person losing that energy that prevents them from feeling this vitality? So we start there because this is the pain. In general, when we talk about the clients, then the categories, it is a more general. Remember, we're talking about all work begins with the most prominent pain that people bring. And is she teaching us to run a tantric business? No, I'm teaching you to understand how tantra therapist and tantra coach works. I'm teaching you what the principles of this work, such that if you decide to be my client, or if you decide to employ certain techniques for your self-help, you are well equipped and you understand the logic. I'm not teaching you to run tantric business because it's it would be very difficult to teach through such format of lectures without dedication, without performance of practice and tracking and monitoring your progress. So this thing also includes work with focus, yeah, and I was saying that when a person brings some pain, usually it's some issue. These 5 categories that I brought up, they are like more generalized variants of that pain, how we can put them in some box, how we can classify them. So we're going to prioritize certain things for such clients. But usually, what happens is that those 5 categories become quite arbitrary, because usually it boils down to very similar types of dysfunction. So what varies between different clients is the focus and when the starting point. But the whole construction of new behavioral patterns, it follows, and also the regulation of nervous system and the body, it follows pretty much the same stream of events. So work with focus. We teach a person to work with their feelings, with their emotions, with physical feelings. When are we going to, okay, Billy Ray, go to OnlyFans and be merry? So with vitality, it's pretty clear what we work on. But then an interesting thing happens when we start looking into clients with psychosomatic things. Psychosomatics. Let's say a person brings something like IBS. IBS, painful periods, painful periods, PMS, and acne. Usually this comes together. PMS, acne. How are these problems usually resolved? They're usually resolved by proper diet, and minimization of stress. And also by perhaps resolving trauma. And when we talk about proper diet in such people, sometimes they will have emotional reasons for binge eating something that causes them, for example, to go on some plant-based diets that are absolutely horrendous for IBS. Because they're worried that they will be gaining weight, or because they want to eat more be able to eat more, they want to be able to eat more calories, they want to manage their insulin better, perhaps. Or they will be on some high sugar diets and whatnot. So their emotional state will be preventing them from approaching a proper diet. Do you think carnivore diets like all beef makes sense? I'm not a proponent of carnivore because of I don't like labels. I don't like to have biological restriction, like extreme biological restrictions. But carnivore is not all beef either. Carnivore is also fish, it's eggs, it's dairy, it's a lot of things. So carnivore is just all beef? No, probably I wouldn't. I wouldn't be following that. But I personally, I cannot be on a carnivore because I start craving something like celery. Or, I don't know, it's not even cravings for specifically fruits or sweets. I crave mostly electrolyte-rich things. So, I would crave celery, I would crave some salad. So I just can't. I tried doing carnivore, but first of all, my mind starts freaking out because of the label and restriction, and I'm past that. I don't want that. And at the same time, I start craving celery. Like I literally crave celery during that. Recently, I started craving fennel too. So, hi Nastya, I didn't see you on yesterday because get her done. We had closed workshop. It was a wonderful workshop, very intimate circle session in Zoom that we've conducted. Jordan Peterson says he eats only beef and always wondered if he's getting enough vitamins. I don't know. I feel like it's like part of it is just being a tough guy. He's like this. It's a tough guy. But I don't know. I like to have flexibility, so. And also, I like to maintain some metabolic flexibility as well. Hey. So this person, if they are stress-ridden, they may not be able to even embrace certain healthier diets. So they will not be able to manage their IBS without certain pillar of support initially. Because, for example, their diet may be their way of coping with emotional distress. So that's where it can tie tantric work and solving of the physical problem. Then some trauma can also be leading to these manifestations, like stress, having high stress. So we are dealing with a complex of things that create for a person the spiral down dysfunctional environment. So one thing just causes this downward spiral that prevents a person from building a functional system. And usually to exit the spiral down system, we need to break some automation in either of these things. We break this pattern, we bring awareness there, we establish a new way of functioning, and then a person can suddenly build a nice, stable environment and not this spiral down, destructive thing. So that's how we work with psychosomatics, and moreover, there are, of course, each of these bullet points will have a lot of work in themselves. We talk about psychosomatics, for example, autoimmune diseases or addictions. We'll need to look into why person has a program, some script for self-destruction. Psychosomatics can have the script for self-destruction. Why? In the mind of the person, oh my God, get it done changes weight drastically between seasons. That's interesting. So what is this self-destruction script that the person has that leads to autoimmunity, depression and its physical manifestations as well, such as like anemia and so on, addictions, mutations, susceptibility to let's say some invasions, something like candida, for example. So what is that self-destruction script? And there are many levels to our being. There are manifestation of any physical symptom. It begins from perhaps inability to feel pleasure deep down. The physical self-sabotage begins with inability of enjoying life. When a person doesn't have a skill of enjoying life as it is, cannot enjoy life. When they cannot enjoy life, which is at the foundation of psychosomatic diseases, this is when it spirals down into disconnect with the body, because there's no positive feedback from living. There's no positive feedback from life. So the person does not know how it is to enjoy life. Then they forget how to enjoy life. They gradually disconnect from their body. And now what happens? Their body can speak to them only in the language of pain. They do not have feedback, pleasure feedback. They start focusing on the pain feedback. This is impossible. How else will I know that I am alive? How else will I know that I am alive? There's no positive feedback. So there must be negative feedback. And that can launch this self-destruction mechanism, this script. Then what happens? There is disconnect with the body already. Body starts communicating through pain. But the pain becomes normalized because there's no alternative. The only way a person feels alive is through pain. So when pain happens once, twice, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, and it's normalized, and there is no connection with a healthy body anymore, There was healthy body back there and then. There's no healthy body connection anymore. Mind-body connection. There's only pain response. Exercised over and over and over and over. What happens is, whatever was the trigger becomes chronic. So it becomes chronic and it turns into any of these. And person starts dealing with autoimmunity. Perhaps they had that IBS before. They had this, I don't know, some responses to their foods before. But it was fine enough. Perhaps they had some hangovers, but it was fine enough. Because there's no enjoyment of the foundation. It was fine enough. So this fine enough turned into chronic form. And that is where the disease begins. Not begins, it's where it's evolving. It began here. Cannot enjoy life. And then the physical body starts spiraling down. Because any dysfunction left untreated drags everything to adapt to it. Because imagine something aches in the human. Leg, let's say, aches. Person cannot walk comfortably. They start walking more on this leg. This causes shift in their pelvis. This causes shift in their back. Shift in their back starts putting strain on some nerves here, starts activating nerves because of the spine. This can start causing person to have headaches, having also loss of mobility, loss of activity can also start causing them to have cardiovascular problems because blood is not pumping properly, lymph is not pumping properly, bones are not getting enough nutrition because bones need movement to remineralize. So this little thing left untreated that caused the person to adapt to that pain has a spiraling effect, turning the whole body to service this thing, to sacrifice resource, to sacrifice for this thing, to managing this thing. That's how it may work. Little thing that a person decided to settle for because they forgot how to enjoy life. Tantric practices find this thing, how to enjoy life and how to find a connection with that healthy body again, or for the first time in life. What is that image, this supreme image, this feeling? And when we connect with it, we know the exact action plan for how to execute on supporting that. We stop feeding the dysfunction and we start feeding the function. So we turn this nutrition off and we start nurturing this. Let's see. Okay, so that one was a good one for you guys. Interesting. It's because the subconscious trying to process information resolved malevolent scars from people that were supposed to care for the person. Perhaps. One person on that script. Interesting. I'm glad that I worded it in a way that was helpful. Chad, I feel that one. Great. Zibul, thank you. Garuda, hello. Great way to give the bone smart calcium and nutrition is to eat more eggs, milk, and cheese and chocolate. There's more to it, actually. Anemia can also start destroying the skeleton. Parental care is the canary in the coal mine to the self-destructive. They only see through the glass dimly. They don't know anything other than what they knew, though there's many different facets. Michael wants some to show breathing exercises. Breathing exercise we might do later. Then keeping up so far, Kiva, good. This is true. The brain will prioritize vital organ versus limbs to keep you alive. This is how I got. This is okay. So, the self-destructive script is a malfunction that exists there and can manifest in many ways. And again, I will reiterate that the habit, reinforcing the habit of communication with the body through pain as opposed to through pleasure, or prioritizing being only mindful. The trick is that the person is mindful up to pain, not mindful, not receptive to pleasure. This is the target of tantric work. The doctors will not go there. This is why Tantra may be a great supplemental aid to whatever physical therapy or some maintenance therapy is prescribed to a person. Because the reflex of people who are detached from their ability to enjoy life, they will likely just outsource. They will have this question, is life a suffering then? Who will help to cope? They will have this outwards focus for trying to find what to do with that. So the skill of enjoying life is the primary thing that needs to be addressed here. What is Tantrika? Tantrika is a person who practices Tantra, perhaps female practitioner. Tantric work is tantric work is the work that's performed according to tantric protocol, to tantric tools, I guess, which is circular definition. So I hope this is clear. Any questions, comments on this? Garuda was lucky to be able to fully rehabilitate their body and gain functional pain. Become functional again. So how are we going to work on a patient, for example, on the client, who brings this problem that they cannot enjoy life? Michael, you can stick around. You can experiment. You can put to work everything we're talking about, because we're talking about tantric work. So feel free. How to actually start enjoying life? In my practice, I've met a person who did not have knowledge of how it is to enjoy life. Completely, at all. And that was a creative task, to find the proper language to communicate this enjoyment. What is that? To find this connection with the body. But remember, we were talking about that the Garden of Eden is always inside of us. Human is equipped with so many sensors to train the receptors to feel pleasure. If all person knows is how to feel pain, distress, discomfort, they're exercising that muscle, they're simultaneously not exercising the skill of pleasure. They're not exercising the skill of pleasure. So they don't have a skill, the practical knowledge of how to connect with their pleasure. So what we do, Kiva knows, we already perform the practices for that. One of the practices we can perform is to actually start purposefully connecting with joy, with pleasure, and connecting them with the body. So we'll have state practices, relaxation practices. So these two things can work for a person with existing condition, irrespective of their physical shape. So this is how this work begins. We actually approach it as the skill of joy. Nothing metaphysical, nothing out there, just simple exercising. But exercising of joy. Because humans, the predominant spectrum of emotions is negative. Our body is dialed to be very efficient at feeling and expressing negative emotions, responding very effectively because it's important for survival. Positive emotions, they're kind of even culturally treated as something supplemental, unfortunately. Plus, take the years, centuries of religious programming which glorifies suffering for no reason at all. And so we have glorified suffering and total objection, refusal of joy. That joy must be deserved. Let's also think about the concepts, by the way. How society treats the enjoyment of life? What stereotypes exist around enjoying life? In Russia, we have a saying that today's tears or today's laughter is tomorrow's tears. So this is today's laughter is tomorrow's tears. This is literally the saying. Joy must be deserved. Don't celebrate. Hide your happiness. Then also we have huge drinking culture. Drinking culture adds to this spectrum as well. That you cannot just enjoy and do silly stuff. You cannot be funny, you cannot be fully yourself, you cannot be playful without alcohol. If you want to feel playful, if you want to express playfulness, you must drink. Otherwise, as a full-grown adult, you're not allowed or you're looked down upon if you are enjoying your life fully sober. So then the more you suffer, so then success and enjoyment, I guess, yeah, those things, those deserved, and usually deserved by what? Joy must be deserved not by your understanding how to have joy and taking steps to work towards joy, but by suffering. This is the rotten part of it. It's not just that you set up, for example, how we deserve just everything. We set up a structure, we write a plan, and we achieve the goal. With joy, the transaction is that it should be deserved through suffering. So suffering becomes the prerequisite to joy. Michael, yes, I will finish this thought and we can do a Q&A. So suffering is a prerequisite to joy. And with this culture, with this complex of phenomena surrounding joy, it may be really incredibly difficult without any purpose to just tap into the skill of cannot enjoy life, which launches self-destruction. You are too old for this. There are also, by the way, age things, age-related things. You are too old for this. Are you a kid? You are too old for this. I was having fascinating conversation with my manager, by the way. We were actually very good friends. So with my manager, we had a discussion in which he said that, yeah, for those like to have fun, that's why people have pets and children, to have fun, to legalize play, to legalize fun. And this is this construct, you're too old for this. And then there are degenerative diseases. Then there are people who are self-sabotaging. Then there are people who think that, okay, at this age mark, I need to conform to something. And this, I cannot enjoy life anymore. Without substance, without suffering, there must be always some excuse. It's not just there's joy as a goal and I'm building a framework, I'm building a structure, I'm building a plan of actions to just pursue joy, just accomplish it as a task, neutral task that leads me to joy. No. There must be some ripping, some bloody basin through which a person must go to deserve joy. Through this perverted, religion-rooted thing that glorifies suffering and puts suffering as a centerpiece of human life. Not joy, not pleasure. How destructive it is. And this behavior is being put in children's heads since childhood. Sometimes children feel terrified to grow up because they know that growing up means starting to live for suffering. And the only salvation becomes either alcohol culture, which is adoption of destructive practices, which all lead to suffering. So this paradigm that joy, that suffering is a prerequisite, so there's a foundation is suffering, that leads to joy. And that plays such a bad joke on people because people start being scared of joy. Because they know that to get joy they need to suffer. They cannot legalize joy without the suffering component. Hence, whenever they feel joy, they know that they will crash. As this statement, today's laughter, tomorrow's tears. How about that? Let's see the chat. Also, single-parent households have played a part, especially for men who grew up with women who force them to degrade the masculine energy. Sometimes, actually, women otherwise, they force a man to embody it too prematurely. They usually, not usually, oftentimes they turn this boy into the head of the household, responsible for the well-being of that woman. There are many facets, but they're all particular cases that can play around there. Of course, there could be different reasons, but what I'm saying is that the social context where we live in, is along those lines. That suffering is a necessary condition for having joy, not just taking actions to having a joy. Neutral actions. Garuda with alcohol addiction as well, so not drinking, sleeping, working, choo-choo. As you get older, you have to reinvest your interests. So, okay. So yeah, this basically... basically Garuda and Chad. Yes, alcohol is a way to purchase joy through suffering. Yeah, the same mechanism as well. Are these Russian stereotypes or common cultural expressions? Which ones exactly? These are all common for the Western world. Now, this statement is Russian statement. Yes, it depends. There's many facets. I actually watched a few Tony Robinson videos, and there's many different examples of the same thing. Very interesting, especially how everything ties to the known phrase. Yeah, if it became a phrase that was a telltale thing, it means that people live by that. And if you look also at what religions teach, suffering buys joy, ultimate joy in the afterlife, for example. So there is a huge, huge footprint of these philosophies in our life. And cannot enjoy life leads to this perverted communication. That's when pain becomes the language of love. That's when pain becomes the currency to purchase joy. But as a result, there is no joy and only pain. That's the danger of it. This hierarchy eventually steals the joy because joy becomes too expensive. As you get older, you have to invest your interest in new acceptable forms so you can have guilt-free enjoyment. Or you can just not give a fuck, but because who is accepting that? Who is accepting that? Who? Where are the judges? You are the one electing the judges. Nobody got time? Can you be your online friend? Or you can surely be in this format, especially. So you yourself elect the judge. If you think about it, who's giving weight to your actions in general? Who's giving weight to anybody's opinions? Who? Moreover, if I ask you, for example, if you do something that you really want to do, and you may say that people will judge me for it. Usually when we say general terms, it is always a good idea to go in details and ask, who exactly? Show me those people. You know how in the chat sometimes people are like, do you like this group of people? And I'm like, which people exactly? Can you show me the people? I can tell if I like them or not. So sometimes when you say some general terms that people will judge me for it, usually there are one or two people who will judge you, who you think will judge you. It will not be a whole village, whole city of New York judging you, just putting you on a stake and burning you. You have to live in respect of other boundaries and enjoy the peoples whose boundaries are akin to yours. Sure. But I mean, enjoyment of your life oftentimes doesn't push on people's boundaries necessarily. You can ride like I did. I had the pink tricycle when I lived in Florida. I bought myself a pink tricycle. It was very very cool. Totally weird, you know. Some people, my relatives were saying that it's a totally weird thing to do, but I enjoyed the hell out of my tricycle with super cool basket. I was going to the beach with it and it was super phenomenal experience. And I loved the thing so much. But this thing is looked down upon because people would be like, no, you should just get yourself a normal bicycle. You should get yourself a normal bicycle for normal people. Why? I have my flamingo ped, how I called it, so it was the best thing on the planet. But no, it never pushed on anybody's boundaries. Usually people care about such stuff. Then running in the park, falling in leaves, dancing. Why? Smart people know their limits and can enjoy life. You have labels here. Smart people, for example. Who are smart people? Who is this group of smart people? What is their smartness? Now, who offends whose boundaries? Like, what are you guys going to do? I mean, you're not going to jump, maybe do something unlawful. Like, for example, stealing somebody's apples from the garden. There is actually a trap. You can identify yourself as a smart, prudent person. And then, because you want to hold on to this identity of a smart, prudent person, you may slowly fade away your ability to enjoy life. So be playful specifically, because you now identify as a smart and prudent person. So there is no domain. It will feel very insecure and weird to step out and do something, even in privacy of your home, because you put in a costume of a prudent, smart person. And that may become a limiting belief, limiting identity. The ones with the baskets are always the coolest. Yeah, it was super cool. I miss it so much. But now I don't have anywhere to ride it because I live in the area. That is not conducive, but oh my god, so good. So with psychosomatics, we figured this topic out. The foundation cannot enjoy life. To dare to swap. Now let's look into this. I think we'll be sticking with psychosomatic things because I think they're very relevant, and I think everyone can find something. Even some backache can be a representation of psychosomatic. So let's talk about it. How to get rid of this paradigm that suffering buys joy. Suffering buys joy. How can we get rid of this linkage? First of all, we need to work on the belief that it may not be true. So we need to allow ourselves to think otherwise. Give it an opportunity. Because beliefs go a long way. Sometimes you cannot even start therapeutic work because person just has this belief. So we need to have a conversation about it. Allow to think otherwise. That there may be, give it permission to exist, that the other option exists. So, after we've allowed ourselves the chance to do it otherwise, to approach it otherwise, we can approach it through joy is a task. It's not a treasure, it's a task. Not a treasure. It's not some goal, some super difficult to achieve goal. It is just a task. Task means that there are steps. There is step one. There is step 2. There is step 3. And further, if we need it. And further. To accomplish this task. There's people in the world who believe their boundaries and to encroach your own. So that's what I meant when your Garden of Eden can clash with the fire from the pits of a person's current state. Good. So step 1, step 2, step 3, we are writing instructions. And we know the plan, how to achieve this joy. How to do joy. What's the recipe for joy? For some reason, people don't think when they, for example, want to do some exercises, they don't think that they need to suffer. They think that they need to work. Joy is found in the body. Joy is produced by our body. Felt by the body. Hence, it is no different. It is no different from any fitness. No different from any fitness. Hence, we can just exercise it. Hence, we can find it in the body. Hence, we can cultivate it. Exercise, find, cultivate. Just like through metabolism or through exercise, we are achieving certain metabolic states. We're achieving the balance between body destruction and production. We're achieving, for example, reconstruction of the bone and muscle as opposed to precipitation of fat. We can achieve those things. We can tweak those things in ourselves. We can, in the same fashion, we can achieve and we can tweak our ability to prioritize joy over everything else. And the exercise, wonderful exercise we performed in one of the earlier streams. Finding joy in the body, seeding it in the body, cultivating it, doing exercises, reinforcing that. Because if you are sedentary, you're sitting, your body adapts to sitting. When you are walking around, being playful and mobile, your body adapts to being playful and mobile, whatever it takes. So this is exact same replica, because we should not forget that joy and every other emotion, every feeling is biochemical state, and that our body is experiencing it fully. So there's no mysticism in that. So how we work on that? We work on first dismantling the belief that prevents the belief that suffering is necessary prerequisite for joy. And we start treating joy as a task, as a choice. Remember how we're dealing with addictions? We also were from identity, from belief, we are moving towards making a choice. This is what it boils down to. I can make a choice instead of this is a belief, this is something that I am just hiding myself. Something that fully encapsulates me. Not this. This. I am a mobile, always developing, always changing system that can make a choice. This is an important distinction. So from identity or belief about suffering and joy, we're moving to making a choice. I can suffer, I can enjoy. In most cases, when we're talking about in some states. Now, I think what are other supplemental things to our psychosomatic recovery through Tantra? Of course, somatic exercises, as we mentioned, relaxation, working with emotions, with feelings on the body, breathing and stuff. Then we're going to perhaps removal of these beliefs will be contingent upon removal of some traumatic link. How I receive love, how I receive validation, my self-image and stuff. So perhaps the removal of belief detachment from this identity complex will be contingent upon deeper work to find that thorn, remove it. This part is important to me because I always say, I'm this, I'm that. This is always happens. This is what always happens. Yes, it's a very cool observation, Chad. I'm very happy that you voiced it. Michael, thank you so much. I am very serious about this subject. I mean, not like serious, like crazy serious. I can allow humor in this, but I am serious, yes, in what I'm doing. I like the STEM teacher sometimes, though. Also, the threat level of person veering outside the image of who they are supposed to be, their family and friends, is the boundary that keeps them from being the authentic self and healthy dynamic. Yes, and watch the video on healthy systems, how to leave a dysfunctional system. That's where we discuss this thing. And then sometimes it's the matter, oftentimes how it happens in life is that the barrier to exit the dysfunctional system at some point becomes less difficult to overcome than the fear of what's happening as a result of that system. So sometimes the pain of being in the system becomes too much. So the cost you're paying to be in the system for whatever reason becomes much more, much stronger than the benefit you're getting from the system. And in that sense, belonging to the systems that provide the feeling of fulfillment of essential needs, essential safety. For example, that's when it will become the hardest to overcome. Because what can beat the basic desire for safety, for basic security? That's when a person can push themselves very far. And that's what we're talking about autoaggression now as well. It can be reframed as autoaggression. But I think that it's fair to say, I believe that, I know it is fair to say that inability to make this choice, inability to detach joy from suffering. It was my paradigm as well, some time ago. It felt like, especially it was with achievements. It was not even with the joy. Joy even what not, Michael, this. For me, achievements were contingent upon suffering. I could not feel like I was achieving if I wasn't suffering before. But then again, it became too expensive for me at some point. Then another thing that can keep a person, for example, in the loop of psychosomatic reinforcement, sometimes people can hide in their disease. They may hide in it, like the same as people hide inside of the dysfunctional systems. So they hide there. They cannot handle the spontaneity of life. They cannot handle their desires. They cannot handle their leadership impulses. They cannot. Too much. Life can throw them off. People who, for example, go take care of themselves, and then some stressful event hits, and they completely forget why they were doing what they were doing, why they started taking care for themselves. So they constantly need reliance on on perfect external conditions, in place of them themselves understanding why they care for themselves. It feels like something external pushes and leads them on this path. And for those people, it's also working with detachment from this one single pillar and adjusting their nervous system to be able to handle spontaneity of the world will be a huge therapeutic milestone as well. Strange, you look like a good girl to me. Okay, you're probably making reference to nasty, but it's Nastya. Disease sometimes, in fact, especially psychosomatic disease, can substitute life for a person, can be the shield from the world, can be the armor. It may make a person untouchable. It may make a person, it may legalize for this person to actually voice their desires safely. They're also using suffering as currency. So let's put it on the board again. Suffering, currency. As there's, suffering is like currency. No, it's the opposite, right? That's the core belief there. Suffering buys something. But in life, those conditions they don't exist. Yes, performance, remember our video on energy, remember video on the manifestation. Every event is just investment of energy. We're suffering there. It's just performance of physical work, spending calories to achieving something. That's it. In reality, currency is effort. Physical work. That's it. It's not this. Leslie, good afternoon. Safety is a comfortable mask. Life isn't safe. It's the balance of the two. Become safe without hiding. That's the ultimate transcendence that people talk about. Something along those lines. Lightening the darkness. OnlyFans. OnlyFans. So, this is a construct that creates the problem. Real currency is physical work. That's all. Physical work in the sense of physics. Joules. Joules. Or calories. No more than that. This is unnecessary. That's where we're talking about neutrality. Do you live in Russia? No, I don't live in Russia. I haven't been in Russia for 8 years. I think we'll be covering other topics some other time. I want to do Q&A and different case studies, guys. So if you want to talk about your things, your questions, I am open now. Or if you have anything to add to the topic today. If it inspired some thought. Because actually, the topic of reproductive health is very loaded. So probably, yeah, it will be for some other time. I like how smoothly the topics are going by. Yeah, Kiva, amazing. Thank you. Making some burgers right now. We're in the kitchen. Awesome, Chan. I know that we have some deal with that. Yeah, surprising we haven't got lost or close to confused. I'm proud. Nice. Burger maxing, yeah. What's your stance on bloodline diets and blood type diets? For me, it works. I don't relate to that because there's no basis for that. Antibodies are quite specific, so when it comes to blood work, but genetic component of course exists because some people are very sensitive to certain proteins. Like for example, I cannot eat grains. I mean, I can, but at what cost? Some people can. So I don't know. Do you feel a sense of fulfillment and wider expanse to your viewpoint of life the more you dive into understanding different topics? Yes, I do. I do. And the expansiveness is the major benefit that I found for myself, because when you have anxious personality through years of training, through being hyperactivated, hypervigilant as a child, for example, that's when you tend to fixate on something and run in circles until the exhaustion hits. That's like downward spiral. And there are, again, the beliefs, the the prioritization of stress and self-destruction in the name of some bigger idea there and then, those things were very costly, very expensive for me. So when I start analyzing them, when I start coming to senses and allowing myself more broad life, started being purposeful with allowing relaxation, when I started being more purposeful with listening to my body, my needs, my voice, that's when life started coming together. That's when life started feeling much more pleasant, much more sustainable, moreover. Because living on in a roller coaster mode because of something that you're holding on to, or some intrusive behavior that you can't control, such as, for example, anxious and attachments and stuff, anxious behaviors. That's again, you learn that anytime you have a remission, anytime you have some moment of relaxation, because you learn the cycle, you know that you will be paying with further tension and stress. So eventually, your life becomes completely devoid of pleasure, devoid of enjoyment, because every enjoyment and pleasure always has this anxiety on the back of the mind that you're purchasing something right now. Yes, I used to hyperfixate and still do. Let's work. Can we play chess or crosses? I don't know. Lightning in the dark, lightning the darkness. I let go of emotions a long time ago. I simply not there. Um, if you want to discuss that, I would like you to formulate your request. I would need more details. Kevinas, hi. Nice to meet you. I'm a Tantra coach, Tantra therapist. Lightning and lightning the darkness has such a spectrum of messages. It's very fascinating. By the way, yesterday we conducted the workshop. We had very unexpected situation there. The workshop was the practices of divine union and how through the usage of divine union we can heal life experiences and rewrite them. So basically how to connect with the power of the image of ultimate life-giving, pulsating couple in ecstasy that produces the most beautiful representation of love and life, how to use that for healing our concepts, healing our thoughts, healing our experiences. And we had just a couple of participants, and oh my god, with one of the participants, we didn't go through the full spectrum of the practices, full spectrum of steps. And we ended up journeying in this mega beautiful meditation together. So it was probably an hour long session with feedback meditation. It's quite cool. Kiva endorses. Sorry, but isn't tantric sex related? Yes, it is, of course, but tantric sex, are you going to... It requires mental preparation, mental preparedness to have tantric sex. In general, to have healthy sexuality, human needs to have healthy body and healthy psyche. What we're working on is building sustainable, healthy sexuality, sustainably working, healthy psyche. That's why Tantra is far more than tantric sex. If I give you the instructions for tantric sex, you will be like, what's that? Because tantric sex includes your ability to see the partner as a wholesome, standalone person, and you yourself feeling fully embodied, fully energetic, wholesome person, mature person, who is capable of an equal exchange. Then tantric sex requires you to be a master of focus, locating focus, switching focus quickly. Uh, Also working with focus when there is strong stimulation, when there is gentle stimulation. Being able to drift with your focus as a soft cloud versus having intense focus versus locating focus probably 30-70% between different parts. It requires you to be capable of pleasure, which requires vast work on training your nervous system for capacity of pleasure. And energy. You need to be able to be energetic. You need to be able to be also devoid of some constructs surrounding the opposite sex or same sex if you're homosexual. You need to be able to approach it without any trauma. You need to be able to approach it from a healthy standpoint, such that, again, the goal is to be able to be present with your partner and see your partner as a standalone human. There's so much that goes into tantric sex that it's absolutely pointless to talk about it before we cover very essential aspects of human life. Маленький пришел. Ну, песик пришел, мой Кузьмичка. Мы думаем, ну, Кузя пришел. Братишка. What gives you joy? A lot of things. I mean, I can just enter joy. It's not necessarily contingent upon... Что ты кашляешь? It doesn't necessarily depend on me being stimulated to have joy. Joy is a very natural thing. If we talk about not just like hysterical laughter, we're talking about just calm joy. It's possible to enter just by recognizing that you exist. So that's it's not necessarily something that requires external stimulation. The great tone, teacher, I'm glad you're here. Likewise. Кость, давай не будем на тетрадку садиться, ладно, малыш? Спасибо, мой привет. It's necessary to let go of emotions to some degree as long as you're not cultivating opposite impulses. That's a pretty general statement. Would you say that forgiveness is the highest form of strength to heal and from trauma? No. Forget about forgiveness. Forgiveness is the thing that's... I don't even understand what forgiveness is. If we replace it with letting go, okay. It's not something natural. It's something that's quite cultural, forgiveness. And forgiveness usually means an ability to sustain a conflict, which is just long-term not sustainable. It's draining for the psyche. Forgiveness usually comes in place of the desire to seek revenge. Forgiveness usually is a decoy for aggression. Aggression gets internalized because of that. We always, when we work with trauma, we first let go of, we always express the emotions that are stored in the body. Because forgiveness is not the focus at all. Forgiveness is a concept, is a concept. There is no impulse, there is no like natural draw to forgive. Like, what is forgiveness? You either feel something towards the situation or you don't. So I would just call it let go. And letting go is to break the attachment. Yesterday workshop, we were talking about this practice because of practice of healing the previous experiences, because our attachment and the need to replay previous experiences, some tormenting previous experiences, often comes from our desire to heal those experiences in the past. So when we heal those experiences, we can just let go of them and not like look there ever again. Just leaves our focal plane. But forgiveness is I don't know, it's some Hollywood movie programming, I think. I forgive you. With this concerned face. Very special. Something very special is happening right now. I forgive you everything. Writing some cheesy letters and whatnot. It's pop culture phenomenon, I think. Very true, madam. Thank you, Kiva. I had months of friendship after breaking up with my ex. The preparation of testing boundaries made for the best. sex I had. You've mentioned changing habits, cultivating joy. Any Tantra advice on where to start for a person with ADHD and alcohol problems? I have good energy for up to 3 days before I grab a drink. Pure Purple Jacob, are you still around? So we have our case studies, ADHD and alcohol. By the way, Purple Jacob, sorry, Purple Jacob, were you here for our psychosomatic things? Where we use suffering as currency? So joy becomes a trade-off. Joy is being purchased by a person through suffering, which can be also alcohol addiction. So we have a case ADHD, which is attention deficit. And addiction. Addictive behavior. So that's the complex of things that we work with. Anything else you would want to add? Any interesting symptom, Purple Jacob, that could clarify this? So the natural clause, unfortunately, is very out of balance when going into the market. There's not many energetically mutual interchanges. And remember being completely drained from one. Маленький Кузи is the best, yes. Thank you, Lightning in the Darkness. Nastya, I would like to get to know you more, please. Is this likely? Michael, just stick around for live streams. Great actors that believe in you, thank you. There's actually some accounts on Instagram that make very funny videos. The guys just talk like in the movies. And it looks so absurd. They go in public and they enact those dialogues that make zero sense in real life. And that's where all those concepts, I think, come from, largely. So, addictive behavior and ADHD, attention deficit. So, any other things that may clarify the situation, Purple Jacob? And you said between alcohols, there is, let's draw some beverage. We have 3 days until the next time. I'm a creative person. My entire life I keep starting creative projects but never finished one. I just keep getting distracted. I think I need to find that inner peace to accomplish anything. The inability to complete things. What do you mean by completing, finishing one? What do you regard as finishing one? I'm new. Is there a private inbox I can message you on? My email is info@rawformoflife.com. Email me here if you have any personal, if you want to give me some details about it. The fact that you have ADHD, did you derive it from your inability to finish creative projects, or is it a diagnosed thing? Not finishing projects, we'll add to the list. Michael, yes. That's diagnosed ADHD. Okay. Is it acquired or is it your? Were you built like this? Need to switch on the monotropic while creating music. Okay, let's keep Purple Jacob a little bit focused because we need to gather the puzzle. So let's draw the picture. So what do we have? We have attention deficit. Is your attention deficit you are switching from thing to thing? Deficit. Or are you unable to sustain, or just like attention can be jumping from one thing to another, so same level of excitation. Or attention can be sustained for some period of time and then it fades, so you cannot focus anymore. So what is it for you? Purple, 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 Jacob. Purple Jacob, my question was whether you're focused. Okay, you either can catch hyper focus on one thing and then it become obsessed until it drops, usually with alcohol involved, and at a certain point just floats away. Sometimes I go back but never really finish. Okay, so then cycle will be hyper focus, exhaustion, drop off. So what is the commonality here between addictive behavior and this ADHD pattern? Let's draw. Intensity, and this will be our what? It will be time. We can do it in terms of time, I guess, plotted. So with attention deficit, let's do it as a 0 point. With attention, we're capable of hyper-focusing and then boom. Then some rest. Then again, peak, whoop, peak, whoop. And then with alcohol, it happens that there is stimulation. Same graph will be with alcohol, but it will go actually in the bottom because there's hangover as well. There's also body suffering from it. So this is with alcohol. So we live on very sharp peaks. Where are you? So this is attention plot. Let's do focus. And this is with addictive behavior. Addictive behavior. This is what painting Warhammer 40 minutes. Does it ring with you? Alcohol usually comes when the wave is crashing down, not when it's on the rise. I wanted this feedback such that I could plot them on the same plot. So alcohol usually comes when the wave is crashing down. So we're dealing with this. So there's alcohol, boom. Then there's downward, then there's some smoothness, I guess, because you're not hangover, I'm assuming, when you're in peak. Then this happens, then crush, then smooth, then peak, then crush, then smooth, like this. So we're dealing with this graph, I'm guessing. Once it's on the rise, I'm having my creative work. Looks good. Now let's think, Purple Jacob. Let's think of the strategy. How can we, in general terms, approach your case? How to live a more balanced life, perhaps? Because you see the drop-off here, the problem that I see here is that this, your resource, for example, is here. This is how much focus you can afford. This is how much mental tension you can afford. This is your threshold. And then, to accomplish any project, you need to have more sustained focus. Like your projects are perhaps limited by how long you can sustain the focus. So what is required of you is to turn this peak and distribute it like this, such that it doesn't go over the threshold. So those peaks will be more sustainable and perhaps even will smoothen them out even further, such that you can have no drop-offs. Do you see the logic? Do you agree? Or alternatively, how else can it be approached? Just playing math games here. You can have mini peaks here, like this. All we need is to stay under the threshold and sustain over extended period of time. So it can be spurts. We are high, low, high, low, high, low, with higher period, with higher frequency. Or we are smoother, but for prolonged period of time. First of all, we need to identify your threshold. Do you know your threshold? And what are the symptoms? Perhaps you feel the moment when you are exceeding it, when you are already tapping into some reserves. Can we think about it? Do you know that threshold? Because you know, another fun thing is that your brain also knows that there will be also alcoholic reward for that. So there is a interesting thing, because when this threshold is crossed, you have a reward for it. You have a reward of alcohol here. So you have this like interesting link already built, like behavioral sequence. Do you feel scared, for example, that if you don't push yourself beyond the threshold, it's like not valid, for example? Now you see, you probably, when it all started, when this pattern started, you weren't recognizing that you were doing things to achieve certain goal. Perhaps the reward was, the point was to push yourself, because that gives substance to the activity. I'm hypothesizing. So if you don't push yourself beyond threshold, then it's like some bullshit. Who cares about that? The substance of my actions is in me pushing it. And then doing this reward/punishment scheme. Does anything ring there? As hypothesis. I'll put this back here. Suffering is a currency, this belief. If that's true, this habit there, but the problem is that I cannot hold above that threshold for long term. You don't have to. I mean, your psyche tells you that this is it. When you're pushing yourself above the threshold, this is when you don't have energy for it. You don't have a resource. So why would you want to employ an unsustainable push as opposed to trying to tap into a more sustainable operation gently, below your threshold? If life was about short sprints, I would be a king of it, but it's all about long run. Yes. So I came to conclusion that cannot continue that way. Some dysfunction. You observe the dysfunction. You're like, it doesn't work anymore. Nothing accomplished. I worked so hard, exhausted myself, but I cannot say that I'm fulfilled. And I want to change ways because I want to try something else. I want to try to see how I can live differently. So why is this desire to push beyond the threshold in the moment? I know the formula that I could propose to you. I just want you to journey in and feel what's going on. Because there is a method to work on this. But we first need to identify what pushes you past the threshold. Beyond the threshold, I create stuff which gives me the sense of accomplishment. But you just said that in reality nothing is accomplished. There's sense of accomplishment without accomplishment. So it's instant gratification behavior, actually. So you receive instant gratification of sense of accomplishment, but you're exhausted, you pay for this. Instant gratifications, usually we need to pay twice the price, or more than twice the price. So for instant gratification rewards, we're paying with fall down, and then the desire to go do something nasty, which is suffering is currency, pretty much, formula. So the first thing that I envision here is to remove the sense of remove the concept of that there is accomplishment tied to passing the threshold, and focus on the accomplishment of, for example, building something. That's true. At a certain point, I believe it can be accomplished and there's progress, so I can feel satisfaction, but then it disappears. Okay, let's think now. How can you... First of all, yeah, it's very important to detach from the idea that there will be accomplishment. That's why I will fixate on that right now, such that we remove the need, because this is hallucination. This hallucination. You think that there is accomplishment, but it's just felt like accomplishment without accomplishment. So it is hallucination here. It's important to acknowledge that it leads to global dissatisfaction. The body suffers, the performance suffers, leads to some ripple effect of things, and so on. Now, the protocol that I would propose to you here to smoothen these peaks or to increase their frequency, the protocol that I would envision for you would be training of the nervous system. Training of the nervous system, stimulation, relaxation, stimulation, relaxation, stimulation, relaxation. How we're going to do this? To be able to switch from these peaks. Because also, look at this. When you are in this super strong peak, you generate a lot of inertia. Then you fall down, there's a lot of inertia. Instead, we want to learn to do up, down, up, down, up, down. I want you to learn to switch. Like I'm sitting here, you know, sometimes on the weekend, the person may be laying in bed, laying, and laying. They will not feel like getting up after some time, even if they have enough energy. So we need to learn to be able to switch on demand. Let's, can I erase the plot? Do you get the point? I'll erase it. I think you did. So the protocol here. Train, stimulus, rest, response. Such that you can make it like this. And then perhaps even more frequent, like this. It will give you a much smoother behavior. What can we do here with this training? Subscribe to my newsletter to not miss out on the practice of focus training. But you can do it in the following way. Take an object, any object you want, better comb if you have a comb. For example, for post-finasteride, we're talking about psychosomatics, and now we have a case study for a person with ADHD and with tendency to addictions. A creative person who pushes themselves beyond their limit, sustainability limit, and then crashes and thus unable to finish big projects. So they came to dissatisfaction. So how are we training this response? Can be a simple practice as this. For example, I am pressing on the comb, and then I am going to focus on the comb, and then I can focus on the palm that's not affected. Then on the comb, then on the palm, then on the comb, this palm, this palm, this palm, this palm, this palm, this palm. So we're switching this. We set the timer for like 1 minute. And we're doing this play. 1 minute timer. Switch focus. Then what else can you do? In the self-pleasuring, for example, techniques, you can, for example, engage in self-pleasuring, and you can train your mind actually through that, through edging. When you are approaching very strong arousal, then dialing back and sitting until your arousal softens up to like half. Then you increase the arousal again and then soften it back down. Increase it, soften, increase it, soften. This is another practice that you can do. Then, any training of focus in general, when you take two objects, place them in front of you, and you're switching focus. from this object to this object, this object, two objects together. Then 30% on one object, 30% on the other object. So these things also can be performed. Tantric masturbation, yes, this is how it can be one of the exercises, yes, Chad. When you increase the intensity almost to the peak, that threshold, when orgasm usually happens, you come to somewhere here, and then you relax yourself somewhere here. Then you bring yourself again to some higher level of arousal, and you drop back down here. Bring yourself up here, bring yourself down here. So this is one of the exercises that can train nervous system as well for response to stimulus. One of the easiest way will be actually for our purple Jacob to practice this. So it's work with focus. And then arousal. Up, down, up, down. You can call it edging. Yeah, don't overdo it, but again, you can do several cycles within the session. It shouldn't cause it. We're not going also, Chad, important here thing is that we're not going all the way there. We're approaching it. So it's not like you're withdrawing right before that, before the peak. We're slightly under the peak. So we're balancing between somewhere near the peak and lower, near the peak, lower, because that's where nervous system will be in this excited state in the body, the entire body, and then a little bit quieter. No, I'm not talking about human retention. Poo. Therapist pointed it to me that I don't know how to wait to actually relax. It turns out I didn't even know the definition of it. Just keep chasing impulses and tension. Yes. So these practices can help you. Then relaxation techniques. Also subscribe to my newsletter. There will be a technique soon posted, I promise, I swear. The practice for deep relaxation. Deep relax. There will be 3 practices. I mean, they're like two, but 2 are in one. There is in one practice there are 2 methods of doing it, and one is actually very good for ADHD case training. So there is this is a form of rewiring the nervous system. Yes, it is. It is. You can just use sexual thing because in sexual context you are, on the one hand, you are in the pleasureful plane. On the other hand, your nervous system, you are activating sympathetic nervous system. It's an excited state. This is where you can work with excited state with pleasureful context. That's the beauty of that practice. But then, yeah, reward yourself with a peak, with climax. So, and 3, we're dealing with, let's not word it as edging. Let's do it as arousal, relaxation, cycling. With this arousal relaxation cycling, by the way, you are going to do those like peaks not approaching the orgasm, a little bit far from the orgasm. Let's do it. We're going to go through these cycles. You are not withdrawing full stimulation completely. You can still, for example, touch your body in some other areas. For example, you can switch to petting yourself, which will be very relaxing. So here it's like direct stimulation. Here it is gentle petting somewhere. Purple Jacob, are you still here? Still here. Okay. Here we are working with focus basically, so it's focus training. And yes, this deep relaxation and also changing the concepts, perhaps allowing you to relax and maybe connecting with your body practices, they will have very good effect balancing your in general excitability, because there is a reason for this excitability. There is a reason for pushing yourself to the limits. When you are more connected, when you are more relaxed, when you have this baseline, you're going to perhaps, you will have the baseline of pleasure and relaxation that will open your horizon of perception. Because when we are working on those peaks, on those high excitation things, they work the same as identity, holding on to identity. They are the exemplar state of aliveness. They are the exemplar state of that I'm familiar with. It's the safest state. When I am pushing myself, it's the safest state. When we balance it out with deep relaxation techniques, when you develop the understanding that there is another safe state, there's another safe state, another safe state, when you broaden your palette, when you add more paints to your arsenal, you will start being less attached to those peaks. You're going to know that I can choose this attitude, this self-perception, this feeling, this method. And then with this, with arousal, relaxation cycling, also try experimenting with that. There are natural effective management techniques, and you have to go through it while when the peak beyond threshold desires come up. Eventually will originally transcend. I know she knows someone with ADHD who is womanizer, so the reason he's basically addicted is because that's the only switch off he receives. Potentially, yes. ADHD is very taxing. The cycles are very taxing on the nervous system. Is constantly excited. It's excited or it's completely dead. With these deep relaxation techniques that I'm going to provide, is there will be this yogic practice that puts you in a prolonged state of relaxation, and there will be a practice that allows your deep brain rest. And in that state, you're going to be recalibrating. It's going to allow your brain to receive the proper recovery without pushing itself to the threshold all the time. It's the matter of learning the methods. It is literally the matter of learning the skills. So Purple Jacob, I want you to feel encouraged. I want you to feel joyful, perhaps, because what you need to do, you just need to learn the skill. I will hire her as a coach as soon as I sell my land. I need coaching as a 54-year-old. I'm stuck. I believe she can help many of us. It's a great opportunity. Thank you so much, the great own. I will be there whenever you're ready. The lens of the intimacy is very important for people with ADHD, I assume. He's just looking at it as in a subverted instant gratification lens. Yeah, it turns into instant gratification attitudes. Even again, the pursuit of the momentary satisfaction, pursuit of momentary accomplishment through suffering. For example, I'm out of power. I'm collapsing. And that feels like achievement. That's an instant gratification. Ruben, thank you so much for your beautiful flower. Do you recommend shrooms, LSD, or anything? No, I don't. I'm absolutely against this. Never even bring it up, because that's something that I don't work with, and I am against it, and it's a very risky thing. So it's not a part of my work protocol. In tantric coaching, we are substance free, and our goal is to wean off whatever the person is taking to sustain. Reasons is because it can break your reality compiler forever. It may take one dose of just anything to trigger schizophrenia or stable psychosis. I'm not going to recommend anything with that effect. I was focusing on focusing all the time. When I was losing focus, I felt guilt and tried hard to get more focus. But what you say is that I need the exact opposite: less tension, more relaxation. Yes. And you will find when you unplug, when you change a little bit. And again, let's, Purple Jacob, I want to, are we all set with this? Maybe you can rewatch it. What I want you to understand, just with any addiction, just with any intrusive behavior, we are not taking away. Imagine a person lives in this like box of this behavior, right? They just live in this box that's pressing on them, that's not functional for them anymore. But this is the only box, the only comfort that they know. What we're doing, we're not taking this box away for the person to feel like a puppy in the rain and the cold. We are building this room, this add-on, more spacious, more comfortable room where the person can come in and out of their behavior and can feel more free and can have more choices. That's the strategy. That's the visual for our work. We're not crushing your current way of regulating yourself. We're just giving you options. We're building the door for you to exit this thing and come to this thing. Perhaps further in life, you will want to grow even bigger room for yourself. And you're going to just be able to constantly expand your field of possibilities. And then you may choose to go in this old domain sometimes, but then you will know that you can go to any of this space. This is why if you feel discomfort, that you're going to lose your adaptation that still brought you somewhere, I want to encourage you to not be so perhaps tense about it. You're not losing anything. You're gaining more options. Okay? Because it may seem like, oh my God, I've been focusing, and it's been somewhat working. It's familiar. It kept me alive. I was focusing, achieved something. I assume you achieved something in life. No, at least something. Maybe not exactly what you wanted, but something you achieved. And it may seem like, and I will relax now? You are telling me to relax now? Such that I lose control of everything? Such that I don't have this firm grip on things? Hell no, it might feel very scary. That's why this work will be gradual. Oh, what is this? F. Thank you, definitely not glad. Thank you. But this, we're not doing this. We're walking out of it slowly through building adaptations. You are trying. Can you, for example, spare And my favorite practice, again, the simplest practice. Set the timer for 1 minute. I missed Ruben's gold coin. I saw some other thing. Ruben, maybe. Thank you so much. I saw flower. Oh, gold coin. That's cool. Thank you so much. So, what was I saying? The practice. One of my favorite practices, you're setting timer for 1 freaking minute. And you are allowing yourself to relax. You created for yourself a new box where there are no repercussions, where there's no unsafety. Everything is safe, controlled, where you can try a new behavioral pattern. In this sense, you are creating this domain where you are just relaxing. Whatever practice, you are relaxing in this domain. This is on your timer, mandatorily timer, such that you don't track time. And you are relaxing for that 1 minute in the safe, controlled environment. And that's how you train your brain to gradually come to understanding how it is to be relaxed and that there are no repercussions. For 1 minute a day, I can feel relaxed. It's safe. Then you set it up for 2 minutes. Then you do it more frequently. Little exercise, and your brain learns. Look, by observation. I relaxed, and the world is still worlding, and I'm capable of returning to my work. I'm still managing. My life is living. The world is worlding. I just spent 1 minute in this box where I was relaxing and everything's fine. And then this thing starts infiltrating your life naturally as one of the points of your repertoire now. You suddenly found another way of behaving. You had only one behavioral mode. Now you're like, I can also do this. And then as you grow, you'll be like, I can also choose. I can choose different colors. I can choose different options. And eventually it expands into you being pretty comfortable altogether. Ooh, there's flirt going on in the comments. Shuriken, by the way, hello. I think I didn't say hi to you even. I think, in the middle. Very nice to see you. I love that concept. You diagnose properly. I always feel like I need to control everything or the world will fall apart. Ruben, thank you so much for the heart. Very beautiful. But yeah, I'll keep you, again, subscribe to my newsletter. Or, stick around as well. The thing is that we're expanding the domain and we're softly learning new behaviors. And without you noticing it, or maybe you will notice it, you will start living below your threshold. And moreover, your threshold will start climbing up because the threshold is limited by the resources that you have. Your threshold is held at some level by your mental and physical resource. And as you are recovering properly, you are going to lift that threshold up. So how sustainable your life will become. Look at the magic here, Purple Jacob. I want you to embrace this idea as well. Remember we were talking about that there is a threshold. So this is the threshold number 1. This will be the T1. And the current state is that you're going like this and these peaks, very strong peaks. What we'll do, we will move this threshold up well, T2. And at the same time, these peaks will become like this, something like this. Sustained nice peaks, or even something like this. What will this resource go to? This resource we can spare for pleasure, because pleasure also requires resources. Will you need to opt for alcohol or any other stimulants when you yourself now have a ton of resource for pleasure? Likely not. So your threshold goes up, the operational intensity goes down, all the spare resource is for you to enjoy life. This is where we find that ecstasy of life. This is where we find the freedom to pivot. This is where we find our curiosity, playfulness, what ifs. This is where we find basic vitality even. Just like beaming vitality, charisma. This spare energy. Chad, my boss, forcing me to take vacation time, worried about me drinking, will get worse without the structure of my usual day. Eric, thank you so much. Some people have no concept what relax means. Exactly. No, Chad, yeah, it's an important, it's very aware of you to consider that. It's very aware of you to consider that, and because you're armed with that, now you're armed with this knowledge, and with this knowledge means that you can actually build some plan to put in place. Zero charisma. Bite my nails when I'm nervous. Okay. Purple Jacob. Did you get this concept? And that you can gain much more by embracing relaxation? Что там, зайенька моя? Thank you for this. I'll definitely stick around to learn more about relaxation from you. Great. What you can do right now is that practice with 1 minute with a timer. Sit and relax. Purposefully relax. Just do it. Meet the state. Face it. Scan your body. Do some breathing. And see how the world is just worlding without you being. And then we can go on more dedicated practices and start removing this spell. And I got the idea of that supplies that I can use for pleasure instead of using alcohol to fill the gap. Cool. But yeah, this comes with this gradual threshold rises, the tapping into threshold no longer happens, you operate way below the threshold. That's the beauty of Tantra work. Да, мой сладкий, ты мой дилектор, ты пришел, мой маленький котенок. Вот. Can fidget out or some grounding technique might help with nail biting. So I've been managing ADHD with no medication since 2002. This I can do quite effectively, but at a great cost. Imagine the brain is a computer. My compensation program is heavy, runs constantly. Understandable. So what's your technique, Shuriken, current technique? And what's the cost? Попочка моя, муденька, теплый, все, хвостунчик мой маленький. Thank you, Ruben, so much. Hi, where are you streaming from and what's it about? What is it about? I am a Tantra coach, Tantra therapist. We're going through the case studies at the moment. Gem Z, hello, just joining in. Tantra coach, Tantra therapist. We're going through the case studies. In particular, right now, we're talking about ADHD with constantly living on peaks, on this hyper exhaustion and then drop off. Heard a lot of stuff from teachers and parents as a kid regarding my behavior, but I always had my own world to escape to, so I didn't care that much about their opinion. Every send her gift appreciation. She's always calm and considerate. Thank you so much, Ruben. What's your native language? I've been doing it for so long because I was fortunate enough to be diagnosed age 6 and receive help. That is actually difficult to articulate what I do to manage it. Does it make sense? Yes. Ruben, thank you again. I'm an osteopath and work closely with the nervous system. Keen to hear your take on the root cause that drives the stress. Gem Z, interesting. If you can formulate some case study, I will be very happy to dig in. Because generally, I mean, we have every live stream, and I stream 4 times a week for like 3-4 hours. And every time we have a plethora of different case studies, and we haven't had the identical one yet. So it's really difficult to just generalize it. And we can, but it will be not informative. Thank you, everyone. Uncle Buddy, hello. And guys, if possible, if we can dry off the topic that we covered with Purple Jacob, if we can bring it and close it back on our outcomes of the conversation as opposed to digging into the issue, because I think it will be more helpful if we leave the lingering thing focused on the solution as opposed to focusing on the problem. So I think it will be good if we encourage that dynamic as opposed to going to square one. Diagnosed 6 years of age, now 11, male, hospitalizes baby, vaccination, strain injury. That's a loaded one. Diagnosed 6 years of age, ADHD, I mean. Now 11, male, hospitalized the baby, infection, spinal cord. Well, this one is, this one may have very strong component of actual damage to the nervous system. I've been enjoying every stream, even if sometimes I'm just listening while I play video games. Really good, Chad. Circumstance, but the high cost is that running the program has become compulsive. I can't turn it off, so my brain feels tired most of the times over text, whether I'm doing a lot of other brain work or not. Let's do Shuriken Zone. It will be that's what I'm threatening everyone that I will be posting that thing. Will really be a great help, I think. Thank you so much, Ruben. What do you mean at his level? Just because you have ADHD doesn't mean you're slow or stupid. What? Are you talking to me, Uncle Buddy? So are you a professional psychologist or just a philosopher? I am a physicist. I have a degree in physics. I have a PhD in engineering. And I have a Tantra coach certification. I'm Tantra coach. Как ты? Good, thank you. Uncle Buddy, no. Everybody have a blessed night. Thank you, Ruben. You too. Thank you for the flower. These things are so cute. Let me close the curtains. It's also important, if there is a manageable condition, I think it's important to not fixate on the condition, but work with how this condition works, manifests in a given person. When you know that there is a predisposition for something, it's good to not treat it as like, okay, this is a condition. It's good to handle it how the person actually feels, what this condition does in the context of their life, in the context of their organism. So that's another consideration that I would make when we try to solve such problems. Because there is a temptation to use the umbrella term ADHD, and through this umbrella term, we are trying to find some shared recipe for everyone. But the shared recipe may not exist because we're looking at the scenario of some person's life. And also, by the way, the gateway to healing for each specific person will be found in their own specific life, in their own specific mind. So while it's good to exchange certain tips and stuff like that, again, when we're working on the case and when we came to some recipe, it's important to stay focused on that recipe for the person who received it. So that's the consideration. As opposed to pulverizing the mind away from it. Very pointed meditation has always been the only way I can turn off the program, but even practicing that extensively has not helped much with the constant inclination to mask the symptoms. Pointed meditation also, when we talk about something pointed, also like digging into focus, something with very like big degree of commitment especially, that also can play a trick of diverting yourself from this practice. It puts this thing on par with the condition itself. Like when I need to brute force myself into something, or I need to tap into that resource to pursue something. So that might be also what will be discouraging for the healing or sustainable healing. Signed up to the newsletter. Great, Jacob. Thank you. See the updates then. I'm not spammer, so I mean, not much happens on my website. So I usually use it as a space for workshops that we just started doing. We just had this, we had the first workshop yesterday, more like private workshop, and 4 sessions, personal sessions. And when I start posting meditations, that's when you'll receive some beam bomb in your email. Thank you so much, Purple Jacob, for your contribution. Happy to help. Yes, that's exactly what I feel like is happening. Yes, so we need to curate practices such that they don't feel like a chore, such that they always are accompanied with good rest, such that the practices actually don't become a separate pathway in the forest that you're already existing, but that make you able to have a breather from that forest altogether, from dwelling in this forest altogether. So it must be something more expansive, something very relaxing, and very, very pleasurable. So that would be the criterion for a good practice, for a good meditation, for management of ADD, in my outlook. So we're not just forcing ourselves into a different behavior, we're allowing ourselves some floating. There could be actual meditations that we can try where you will float. And with this floating, with this expansion, with this lightness, you might tap into slightly different way of feeling about yourself, feeling the world. Your psyche will see different realm a little bit. Hello, still me. Very nice to see a person from Poland. What do you do for a living? I do Tantra coaching for a living. And I do content creation and live streams. And some more sophisticated ways of managing finances. The suggestion sounds most wise, but I don't want to take up your time. I just felt compelled to do a bit of sharing for some reason when it became relevant to the larger conversation. You're not taking up my time. It's a live stream and we're actually on topic. So I brought up the case study. Indeed, it was very in tune with what we're talking about. And it made me also think of how I would approach the work with such a client. There's a lot of Polish heritage here in Wisconsin. Really fine, and I think your beauty and my conscience would connect, Derek. I wonder if there's an invention that's ready to be made for breathing techniques for a person with ADHD, similar to cigarette except for the nervous system. I mean, there's for anxiety. I know people use not hyperventilation. They use a bag, and they just breathe a little bit of CO2, so they cycle the air inside. So that's something that exists. But you can do alternate nostril things. You can do cooling Kapalabhati technique, for example. So there are some things, but also it's not just the breathing, it's also not the breathing pattern that matters, but how we breathe, which blockages exist on the way of breathing. That alone, again, it's simple thing, simple adjustment can make huge difference. Thanks very much for your analysis, Nastya. I will give your suggestions very serious thought indeed and put them into practice if I can. Great, Shuriken. Let me know how it goes. Like yesterday in the workshop, we went suddenly on a journey through it was visualization practice that ended up being a huge experience for the person, and up to the point of physical symptoms of ecstasy. It was a really crazy experience. Yes, but like a hand has set-sized breathing object. It's a good idea that could be a brand right. Obviously, it's something you need to have vision and passion for. Visualization is very cool, yeah, Kiva. Still waiting for that dream to come when your brain processes. Also, how do you know if a person you're consulting needs some clinical psychiatrist? How do you know where's the line? There are some simple ways to tell that, because the adequacy of responses in person can tell a lot. If a person is hyperfixated on something to the extent, or some like, there are intrusive thoughts, but when there is no domain for a person to exit them altogether, that's a problem. Then if there are any tendencies for self-annihilation, like actual tendencies for self-annihilation, then it's also probably requires immediate intervention. then I mean, you can tell usually. Some cyclical thinking, then movements, perhaps some persistent movement patterns when a person is doing some, either says some things like in repeated fashion, or they're moving in certain specific way, or they're jumping too much from topic to topic. When we're talking about one thing and then they're like talking about some apples on their grandma's garden. There are easy ways to tell, usually, when it becomes in the realm of psychiatry. It sounds wild. I will report back certainly. Some sort of more free-form meditation. That sounds interesting. I feel like I may be able to cook up something like that. Yeah, we were doing the meditation, the script I can tell you. You can reenact it. We started off by doing the visualization warm-up because when we were with Kiva, we started doing visualization warm-up just to enter the space of visualization. Something easy. We're envisioning the space, then an object floats, goes up and down, then turning to the side, looking at the space, and then we start walking through the space. Then walk through the space, and that is generated by the psyche. Walk through the space, and then we're seeing if the psyche craves a human, another human presence there. So we start inducing if it's desired, then the psyche starts driving the image of a human or some entity. And then we're looking what psyche attributes or ascribes to that entity, what traits, what gender this person has, what energy, what demeanor. Then we bring them closer. Then we work with interaction with that human entity. That was yesterday's meditation. It's not something that I tell to do for like ADHD management. It's something that we did yesterday. And then we went on. It was the creative part begins there, where you meet the person, what qualities the person projects, and how you interact with that person, what you want to do with that person, and then through that we discover whatever we discover. But yeah, this is like journeying through the psyche, and then yeah, will vary from person to person. You just let your psyche throw things at you. I was guiding the meditation, so I was kind of like asking questions to the practitioners, and I myself was journeying through their narration. This is super cool. I think Eric is anti-gay. Thanks for counting that technique. You're welcome, Shuriken. Would you say I'm unstable in comments? The Blue says. I don't know. I mean, you go back and forth with different people, so it's hard. Leslie, what's in you? Do you think this is hell or a temporary form of hell? That's a surprising question. No, I don't think. I know. I think that people can turn their life into hell. Questions, concerns. That's the question you need to ask yourself. Yeah. And then ask yourself why. Whatever answer there will be. If there are any questions, concerns, requests, I'll take one more question probably, and then we'll be doing a recap. Today we'll finish a little bit earlier. Hell is the heel, lowest vibration and chakra. It's funny sometimes how people try to put English words and not etymology, but the roots of certain things ascribing to concepts that are not existent in the Western classical culture. Sometimes it's not related to what you said, but no, not early. Start asking questions, guys. Do you believe in following the path of objective law and truth, your life being affluent with the universe? That's essentially the narrow way in the Bible. Do you believe in following the... What is objective law and truth? Law is a man-made concept. There are laws of physics that are not... that are human description of laws of objective reality, I guess, as we understand them. But I struggle to answer this question. I don't know. Natural moral law. Natural and moral don't go in one sentence. They're oxymoronic. Natural moral law puts life in the forefront of everything. So whatever it takes for you to live and to thrive will be the natural moral law. So if you need to... Q, thank you so much. What a dog. That's so cute. So, natural moral law is to live and to thrive. And whatever it takes for you to live and thrive, even if it means doing the most evil thing, in accordance to the post-Christian moral dogma, you will do. This is natural moral law. You will be sleeping around with different women because you want to fulfill your natural urges. You're going to, and do a bunch of different stuff in pursuit of your power and force and pleasure. And if you are, moreover, if you're not capable of doing that, you would be taken advantage of by the people who feel like they have this advantage to do whatever they want. So that would be natural moral law. You're either on top of the hierarchy or you are used in the hierarchy. Little bastard. Yeah, it was very cute. I asked this teacher because I seldom see a human that's content. It's not meant to be a religious question. Now, my answer about hell is that you can decide whether you live in hell or not. If there is something like natural moral law, it would be unpleasant and difficult to define. I think it's just, again, life as a natural criterion is life and thriving, biological thriving. So whatever it takes. Parasites can be on top of the natural moral law, taking advantage of something with minimal effort. Some like intrusive species will be successful in their moral law, in natural moral sense. Apologies, I didn't realize it would take over. It was very cute. This one has ADHD, that one is an alcoholic, etc. And what? Okay, you're right. You're right. Natural moral law doesn't work. Okay, authentic self without the buffer. Rich, thank you so much for your compliment. You with sunshine now. Thank you so much. These are very cute. Natural moral law doesn't work. Okay, authentic self without the buffer. Authentic self, you see, we have impulsive ego, and we have super ego, which is controlling, which is our adaptation to surviving in the environment, because we're not born into a vacuum. That's the limiting thing on authentic self. And remember the notion of explicit social contracts and implicit social contracts. And oftentimes implicit social contracts that don't bear any benefit, that only become limiting, they are the problems. They are the problem on the way to achieving the authenticity, maximum authenticity we can safely and comfortably perform. Because a person thinks that their boundaries should be pushed way in. This is why I'm a proponent of following explicit social contracts and being very mindful with implicit social contracts. Where am I following implicit social contracts for no benefit at all? This is the balance between just being like yourself, like totally yourself in a way that makes your life destructive, and making your life productive when you are balancing your interests and kind of putting yourself in the position when you can take advantage of the environment. Some people can be content even when their circumstances aren't perfect. That's how people go their whole lives without working through their issues. Yeah, they can find reasons for why they're going through that. It's because again, suffering is glorified in the society. Suffering is something very respectable. Suffering is the universal currency, emotional currency. Suffering wins you to stick for your boundaries. Suffering means that you can ask for what you want, actually hearing your desires. So that's why it's so tricky. And content, yeah, it's like content means that a person was able to functionalize the dysfunction instead of removing dysfunction. So they found application to it. It's like extracting penicillin from mold. You know, there was mold that's considered to be destructive, considered to be very harmful, but we can take and extract penicillin from mold. We can functionalize it. That's me shrieking, but not without alcohol or cranking my home. But I'm largely content. I see vast meaning in all parts of life, and that makes struggles well worth it. Being content and being settled also may be delineated. Settling for something, like saying that, agreeing with yourself that not gonna bother, versus being content and working on something, not settling in your mind. May also be delineated, I think, here for clarity. Suffering equals freedom. We're growing up in life. That's horrendous. Great on, I'm hardly ever content. Too much anxiety. Anxiety means that you have a lot of energy to solve some problem. But you're aware of the problem, and you produce energy to solve the problem, which can be turned into something productive. Also, many people are wired on output only. The input is the very limited frame they build, which hold on to minute things, such as social status and performance for the audience in their lives. Experiencing versus delivering something. Yeah, experiencing life versus creating a shell of life. Experience indeed something that people lose ability to do. That's why they have so much nostalgia about childhood, because they think that they experienced things then. Right now, they're not experiencing, they're just doing stuff that they're not feeling, they're not connected with that fully. Disconnect with the body. That's the beginning of our video today, was with psychosomatics. It starts with detachment from your senses, detachment from your body signals, ability to enjoy life. Then inability to enjoy life spirals into your body signaling only through pain, because nothing else is being received by a person. Then signaling through pain leads to getting accustomed to pain, and then getting accustomed to pain leads to a person ignoring themselves to such extent that they develop chronic diseases. That's how it works. Маленько мой, дорогой принц мой. And actually, now that we brought up the recap, let's do the recap. I'm erasing our beautiful diagram here. Guys, email me if you want. If it's something substantial, I'll respond. And let's do the recap. Whoop. Recap. So we covered 5 categories of Tantra clients. And the categories of clients that we listed were people seeking vitality, energy, meaning in life. Then the second category that brings psychosomatic problems. The third category of clients that bring fertility, conception problems. Then there was fourth category of people who want some self-actualization, who go for spiritual meanings. And then the fifth category of clients. What was the fifth category of clients? I don't even remember the fifth category of clients. The fifth category of clients was, it was love in sexual relationships. So we have energy, vitality, meaning in life, psychosomatics, conception, reproduction, love and sex, and growth, personal growth, and spiritual development. And we were going through some general protocols for each case, and then we kind of got stuck on the subject of psychosomatics. And this was a very interesting topic, because I think it encompasses so many issues that we commonly work on our live streams. Chronic diseases, addictions, all go there, psychosomatics. And we started drawing this correlation between that, in the foundation of everything is inability to enjoy life. Inability to enjoy life. Cannot. So the body is the only way the body can communicate. Normally it would be pain and pleasure. But pleasure is no longer a language that the body has. The only way the body can communicate with you is the pain. So we break this connection between the body and the mind. This is kind of brain, if you wish. The only communication language is pain. And how deeply we went debunking this attitude. Because when human is pain adapted, fully pain adapted, no pleasure, pain adapted, then the habit for pain transcends into development of chronic diseases, because one problem remains untreated, another problem remains untreated, the other problem remains untreated. The person is numb. So all of these problems untreated, they become chronic. They lead to almost comorbidities sometimes. So that's the danger of that. But at the foundation of that is the belief that suffering is a currency. Suffering is a currency. Suffering is the prerequisite for joy. Suffering is essential for joy. This is the harmful belief that a person who spirals themselves into psychosomatic conditions secretly believes. Without suffering, there's no joy. Suffering legalizes joy. I cannot take joy directly. No, I need to utilize this perverted pattern. And what happens is that joy becomes dangerous for the mind because it inevitably associates with suffering. So we're working further with tantric protocol, working with such clients. First of all, removing the attachment to these beliefs that suffering buys something, and approaching joy as a task, as a skill. To learn, to access this new, different language of communication between the body and the mind, the signaling system, reactivating the signaling system through pleasure, this feedback loop. Then we work on relaxing. We work on reducing the stress. We work on creating this domain of safety, because chronic diseases, psychosomatic diseases often become a little house in which a person hides from the world, where they seek safety, predictability, because joy is scary. Enjoying life, embracing life in the world is scary. So these tricks we are debunking, and we're working in multiple directions. We're also connecting with the body. We start mapping our body for pleasure. And through that work, through introducing the healthy concept of pleasure, through turning joy, pleasure into a task, that is step 1, step 2, step 3, neutralizing it, removing suffering as currency from the picture, we can work on psychosomatic diseases. The person can still be doing some maintenance therapies, but this work is profound, and this work is very highly needed for such clients, because it's needed for developing a stable new way of living outside of that domain of disease, where it's secure, where it's familiar, where it's safe. No, we need to build this big domain in which the psyche will feel comfortable, in which the psyche will have options. Breaking the addiction, breaking the attachment to the concept of disease. Something I didn't mention, the same as with addiction. Remove it from their identity. Make it a choice. Bring about that different approach where joy can be taken directly, neutrally, as a normal function, legalized. Then, we were also naming these things as a script for self-destruction. Because why live? Why live when there's no pleasure? Why live? That's what spirals this script for self-destruction. Because our brain only knows pleasure's language. We're driven by pleasure. Whatever is naturally encouraged behavior gives us insane pleasure. We're driven by it. This is why when we incorporate suffering on the way to getting pleasure, as opposed to just neutral work, just neutral effort, there's suffering there. This is when a person needs to punish themselves before they can afford joy. This thorn is necessary to legalize it. And this is where the self-destruction script lays. And then we moved on to case studies. We moved to ADHD and addiction work. How Tantra coach would work with an ADHD person with addiction who lives in those roller coaster cycles that started taking toll on performance, on health, led to addiction. And we came with this concept of smoothing those peaks. This was our threshold 1, the current threshold of psyche's resilience. Smoothing these peaks that tap beyond the threshold. We smoothen them into this smooth performance, stable performance, and at the same time increasing the threshold, such that we release this free energy here that can be dedicated to joy, that can be this natural substitution for drinking habit. This is what we came up with. And which therapy tools are we going to use for this case? The relaxation techniques, creation of safe, controllable domain in which we can introduce the concept of relaxation to begin with. Then we're working on activating and relaxing our nervous system, cycling through that, looking at the switching mechanisms to start working with these peaks. And then we also worked with certain, like even sexual practices that can help to train nervous system from from strong arousal to light arousal to strong arousal to light arousal, or even perhaps to very soothing, oscillating between arousal and very soothing touch. So we are activating our nervous system, then pacifying it, comforting it, then activating, pacifying through pleasure. This was another method there. So these were the protocols that we wrote for the work with ADHD. Then we continue to work on how should a protocol of work with ADHD client be designed such that it doesn't lead to just another roller coaster, just another peak riding. And Shuriken brought up his case how certain meditations turn into an alternative to those peaks. Another center point. We should avoid that. We should instead, we are expanding our domain. We are softening. We are floating. And here also, I didn't mention that, but it will be in the package that I will be posting with defocus. Defocus practices when brain gets the chance to experience this floating, expansion, and deep rest. So this is also how we're approaching that. Not some chore meditation that is like a strenuous exercise. No, always balanced with rest, always relaxation and expansion forward. Soft, smooth, inviting, because when we're dealing with people riding those peaks beyond exhaustion, what we need to do, we're dealing with it the same way we're dealing with addictions, identities. There is a domain in which I am uncomfortable being. It's not fitting domain for me anymore. I need to expand the domain. I need some space. I need to know that there is a safe space outside of that box in which I can be experiencing different experiences safely. So this is the direction of work. We are removing the boundary here. We are expanding this box such that repertoire of the person becomes much bigger, but we're not removing it completely. It becomes a part of our repertoire, such that it's not intimidating to work on the recovery, such that there is no sabotage. It's important to know that we can always bounce back to our old habits. So this is what we were working on. And here, what is the chat saying? Chad. I'm done looking at all the gifts YouTube has. Zabulu, thank you so much. What did you just say about chronic disease? I don't remember watching the replay. Very interesting concept, David. Thank you. Stick around. Streaming Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday when we don't have workshops, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Maybe sometimes we'll come online on the weekend. I don't know. Chad, I'm very happy. Confronting fear boundaries is important also. Speaking up for yourself and even watching horror movies I've noticed personally helped me grow into my masculinity. Zabul, interesting. Yesterday we had very interesting that meditation that I was describing with masculinity. Just triggered another impression from that. So something like we're teaching lion physics, Elon physics classes. Lost my dad last year, Tim. It was upsetting because I always thought we'd spend more time together. She well in pursuit to stop drinking. I've been a horror fan since I was a tiny kid. My parents would watch horror movies on TV and I loved them. I was never scared of monsters, the closet, or the dark. I watched about vampires. What's Tarantino movie about the vampires? I always confuse Dusk and Dawn, so I'm not gonna name it. But yeah, I was watching that movie all the time, like almost every day when I was 5. That was like vampires. It was such a cool movie too. I loved the dance with the snake and how everybody turned into vampires. Okay, guys, so I'm going to sign off and I am going to go. I have delicious food awaiting for me. So, there's something about the girl with long canine teeth. It's hot. I don't know why. No preferences. I think in Japan, are they fashionable in Japan? I assume we did the questions near the end. Yeah, I think everybody's done with questions, or do we have questions? Кузинка, do you have questions? Малыш мой. Это кто? Почему сладкая? I use the sentiment of people who project false power. What's your favorite ice cream? My favorite ice cream is ice cream for bears and homemade ice cream. Ice cream for bears have fantastic chocolate one with such a chocolate glaze that I don't know how they made it, but it's absolutely phenomenal. And it's chocolate cream that spirals through the whole thing. Ice cream for bears, if it's sold in your state, then absolutely try it. They also have very delicious orange cream and coffee option. All of their options are very delicious. Thanks so much, sister. Have a wonderful meal, and I wish you and the friends here a nice, tranquil weekend. Thank you so much, Riken. So, yeah, with the Thursdays, by the way, Kiva knows already that Thursdays we might be making it a regular thing. Maybe I will, I don't know, think about the format. We might be doing those closed workshops. Chat, by the way, you shouldn't worry about it. Yesterday, Kiva was without camera and without the audio, so chat was just the same as this chat. It's very private. I know that you wanted to join, so we managed to join like that. Or maybe we'll do something like, I don't know, closed streams for members. I don't know how we'll do the structure, such that we can do a dedicated practice, for example, or dedicated consultations, or dedicated issues. I need to think about it. Thank you, Purple Jacob. Very happy about it. So Thursdays might remain the workshop like it was last week, and or it may be reframed a little bit. I don't know yet, so we'll see. I need to probably set it up better on my website such that there's no confusion with time zone, and maybe make more emails, reminder emails. So we'll see, but it might be fun. And also need to think about the topics that we can work on, like with some fluidity as well. Perhaps not some pre-designed practice, but just a general topic, and we go with the flow. So everyone who's been with me for some time, I really encourage you to consider joining when you receive notification, or whenever you happen to stumble upon. I will be reminding about these workshops when I host them. Okay? Otherwise, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is my live stream at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So that's how we go. And then whoever subscribed to newsletter, you will receive the bim bom about when I post introductory practices and the course with description, whatever, brochure. 1:45 a.m. in Poland. Okay. Good to know. So 1:45. So we started 3 hours ago, 3 hours ago. So it would be. I'll be teacher in the chat. Goodbye. Great on. Bye bye. So, okay. Bye bye, guys. Thank you, Kiva. Oh, thank you, Kiva. I didn't expect. Okay, мадам, как же интересно вас слушать. Вы такая спокойная, от вас через экран веет позитивом, любовью и теплом. У вас хорошо поставлена речь и отличный характерный типаж. Не перестаю удивляться. Спасибо большое, Киев, очень приятно. Очень приятно. All the best and bye-bye. Good night, Nastya. Bye-bye, everyone. And Thursday we'll agree upon. So, even a good note. It's always a good note. Thank you, Mrs. Led. Krishna told me everything happens for a reason. Давай, Кузьмичка, скажем всем пока-пока-пока-пока-пока. Дорогос мой. Зайчик мой. Alrighty, guys. Ай, кусаешься. Guys, wrap up. wrap up. Goodbye. See you on Tuesday. Pooch.